These are acorns that I picked, and I picked them off the ground. These are red oak. Okay, the caps usually come off. There's your typical acorn. White oak, the acorns are usually oblong shaped, a little bit longer. These have a flat bottom and they will stand upright without tipping over. White oak acorns, you can't do that, they would fall. The red oak acorns take 2 years for them to produce and drop. White oak acorns, they drop seasonally. These are real high in tannin acids. White oak are much lower. There are a few varieties of white oak that have so little tannins that you can eat them fresh. I haven't found any of those. These can be stored for a long time. The longer you store them, the tighter the inner coating is attached. So and that has a real high tannin acid. Light tap, they open very easily. And by allowing these to dry like I did, you can see that bitter inner hull is dried and sticking on the inner shell. Some of these acorns that I picked up could have been laying on the ground for over a year. There you can see that fibrous liner. And the bitter is from the tannin acids. And when we leach the tannins out, all you have to do is taste these to know when they are done. Here these have had the hulls removed, and there's about 2 pounds. Any of the nuts that had a wormhole, usually they were bad inside. And then if there were any hulls that were cracked, they usually had mold growing in them. So the acorns will keep a long time provided that outer hull is intact. Filled this with water. These are going to swell a bit and the hulls will soften, and then they can be removed, or the paper covering. You can see the dark color, that's the tannins. I've been rinsing these 2 to 3 times a day, and if you look, it's still having that tannin color. You want to make sure that the temperature doesn't get above 75. I have it around 70 degrees. I'm using cool water. If it's warm and you don't rinse it enough, it can start to ferment. I'm going to run this through the food processor with some cold water and break the nuts up into very fine pieces. That will speed up the removal of the tannin acids. Any that appear to be dark in color may be ones that are rotting. I've gone through this, they all look pretty good. I'm going to take about half of these and grind them up. I'm adding cold water. We want to top this up Now we're going to seal this and change the water twice a day. Cool water and setting in a cool place. We want to shake it. Now this is the cold water method. Warm water or hot water, you would boil these, but when you do that, it cooks the starch. It'll make the flour a little darker and won't be as good for making breads. Here I'm using a funnel because this does not fit the jar. It fits the funnel perfectly. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to pour off the liquid. I'm rinsing this, and what's going to happen is this starch in the acorn is going to be poured off, and I'm going to collect that and save it. Then I can add water to this and continue rinsing, and that's going to keep removing the tannins that's in there. And I can do the same with the starch. I just tasted that. It's pretty sweet. There's not much tannins left in there. That was about 6 days of rinsing. Okay, this jar, we're going to separate the starch. In this one, we're going to add more water and shake it up. I want cold water. You don't want this warm. We do not want it to go into a ferment. Put a lid on, and again shake the entire mass. This one I'll put in the fridge and to let the starch settle out and to keep it cool. Okay, this has been over a week, and you can see it's still colored. It's not running clear. So I am going to drain this off, and I'm going to taste the acorn and see if there's any more bitter tannin to it. If not, I'm going to drain this and start drying the acorn, which is the grit down here at the bottom. Let's strain this. Here's the solid. Okay, I still get a little bitterness, so I'm going to do it, drain a couple more days. These have been soaking, and I'm changing the water twice a day, and there's no more taste of tannins, no more bitterness. So I'm pouring this through cheesecloth that I have set in a colander. Now I'll allow this to drain. After it's done draining, I'll put it in my dehydrator. Now this cheesecloth is not the same that you buy in the grocery store. This is real fine mesh, and we need that because this acorn grit is real small. And if I did this with the other cheesecloth, I'd be squeezing out a lot of the grit. Okay, I really reduced the mass. On my dehydrator, I have these silicone drying mats. They're made for fruit leather. So I have 4 of those. So I'm going to put half of this one on this tray. I'll do 1/4 per tray. You can see how fine this is. So you have to have a mat like this so it won't fall through. Whoops, I knocked some through. Okay, then these are just slightly oversized, which is good because you see how the perimeter then forms a lip. This now is going to go into the food mill, flour mill. The acorn I had stored in the freezer, and what I'm going to do is grind half of this at a time. Well, we'll see how much fits in here. Yeah, we'll do half at a time. And you want to keep this sealed because it will absorb moisture out of the air until after we grind it. This grinder runs about 2 minutes of grinding. It's like a big blender. And it does create a little bit of heat. You'll feel that the flour is warm. This is a new one, so I'm still struggling a little bit with it. You don't plug it in until this lid is sealed. There's the one that was tight. Okay, let's plug it in. And it really doesn't have an off-on switch. It has a timer, and that's the off-on switch. I don't see it lit up. There, now it's lit. Power's on. Okay, unplug the machine. It seems to grind it pretty well, but what I don't like is how all of this just sticks on the inside. The machine came with this sifter. I don't need to clean it too well because I get another half bag to put in here. Pretty good, all that came through. Now the lid is loaded. Very fine. That breaks it up pretty well. And this just came out of the freezer. This feels warm. So the grinder does heat a little bit. There, 1 quart of acorn flour, and I will store this in the freezer until I'm ready to use it. Very, very light.